Students, yesterday we discussed about subjective symptom. First we discuss about what is person in health and what is person when he is deceased. Then our state of health and state of disease. Then we discuss about what is symptom, and also we discuss about the subjective symptom. Today we will discuss about the objective symptom. So subjective symptom, it is nothing but the symptom which are felt by the patient himself. In the same way, the objective symptoms, these are the symptoms which are observed by the attendants, by the relative of the patient, as well as by the physician also. And these objective symptoms are also called as signs. So, the objective symptoms which are perceptible to patient, to bystanders and physician, so they are also known as sign. Dr. Hahnemann defined objective symptom as the expression of the disease in the sensation and functions of that side of the organism exposed to the senses of the physician and bystanders. Physical findings and laboratory findings also come under this heading. These are sure signs of disease and do not mislead the physician. So, according to Dr. Hahnemann, the objective symptoms are nothing but the expression of the disease which are in the sensation and functions of that side of organism. It was expressed outwardly on organism, on part of the body, and which are observed by the physician as well as bystanders and patient also. In physical findings and laboratory findings, we also observe something, we also get something abnormal. So all physical findings and laboratory findings, they came under objective symptom. As we discussed yesterday, in subjective symptom, we cannot get anything in laboratory findings or physical findings because there is deviation at the inner level, at the level, dynamic level, at the level of vital force. In the opposite way, all signs, all findings, physical findings as well as laboratory findings, they all came under the objective symptom. And these are the sure signs of the disease which do not mislead the physician. With the help of laboratory findings, with the help of physical findings, we can able to label the condition of the patient who he was suffering from which type of disease. We can able to diagnose the disease condition, and so the physician do not get misled. He get the exact idea how to treat the patient because of the physical and laboratory findings. The objective symptoms, they follow the subjective symptoms. Means first we get the subjective symptoms. First there is some changes in the sensation which was felt by the patient. First, when there is derangement at dynamic level, derangement at the level of the vital force. Then in such condition, first we observe the changes in the sensation which are felt by a patient and which is followed by the objective symptoms through physical and laboratory findings. And these objective symptoms are very much helpful in cases where we cannot get the history of the suffering, or in such cases in which the patient is not able to express his sufferings. For example, in case of infant, in case of unconscious patient, in infant, in small children, they are not able to express, they are not able to tell about their sensations, about the changes, about their feelings. Then the unconscious patient, due to his unconsciousness, he was not able to express his sensation, he was not able to give what he was suffering. Then the insane patient, he was also not able to give the history about his suffering properly to the physician. Then deaf and dumb patient, due to their physical inability, they cannot express their feelings, they cannot able to express their sensations. Then patients who are using foreign language, they are using the different language. In such patients also, we cannot get the proper sensations, we cannot able to get their feelings, as well as the patients who are uncooperative, which cannot give the proper history, they cannot cooperate the physician while giving the history of their suffering, history of their illness. In such patients, the objective symptoms, they are very much helpful, because in such patients, through physical findings as well as laboratory findings, we can able to treat the patient. If we cannot get any physical findings, for example, in children, small children, we cannot get, if we cannot get any physical findings or any laboratory findings, but there is too much irritability, the baby is continuously crying, or he was not eating properly, then in such patients, we have to apply some logic. And because we cannot get any clue towards diagnosis, because of lack of any physical abnormality, any physical finding, as well as all laboratory findings are normal, in such patients it was difficult to reach towards the diagnosis. We may do the probable diagnosis, and accordingly we have to treat the patient. So in such patients like infant, unconscious patient, insane, deaf, dumb patient, then patients using different language, then uncooperative patient, in such patients, these objective symptoms, these physical findings as well as laboratory findings, they are very much helpful, and they are also useful for the disease diagnosis. Then they are less useful for homeopathic therapeutic purpose. As we all know that we cannot prescribe the homeopathic medicine according to disease diagnosis. We have to consider, according to our master Dr. Hahnemann, we should consider the person as a whole. We should consider the man, not his part, not his organ, not his disease condition. So, according to homeopathic point of view, while treating homeopathically, these symptoms are very less useful, and these symptoms are only useful in advanced pathological conditions where we cannot get any clue about the feelings of the patient, any for the purpose of suppression we use these diagnostic rubrics. In many repertories, these objective symptoms, which are nothing but the diagnostic symptoms, diagnostic rubrics, we found in many repertories. There are many clinical repertories also, and in many other repertories also we found these type of symptoms, like in Boric repertory, in BBCR, in Murphy, synthesis and complete repertory, we found these objective symptoms. These perceptible changes are sure sign of disease and do not mislead the physician. So these objective symptoms, they are nothing but the diagnostic symptoms. Now, common symptom. What is common symptom? Common symptoms are those symptoms which found in many patients, in many elements, and are produced by provings of the medicines. So the common symptoms are symptoms which commonly found in many persons at the same time during drug proving of the medicine. Common symptoms of the disease are like rash in measles, dragging down sensation in prolapse, stitching pain in chest, etc. So obviously we know that in measles the first sign and symptom is rash. In measles there is rash all over the body. So the rash, it is the common symptom in measles. Then in case of prolapse, the dragging down sensation is there, and stitching pain in chest. These are common symptoms of the related to particular disease. So common symptoms of medicine include symptoms like diarrhea, fever, loss of appetite, headache. In this way, these are the common symptoms of medicine, and they are very helpful in disease diagnosis of a case because they are pathognomic. These symptoms are pathognomic symptoms, means these symptoms are disease symptoms, symptoms of the disease condition. So they are very useful in diagnosis of the disease, and they do not help in individualizing a person, and hence very less useful for during prescription or finding out the exact simillimum. As these common symptoms are the common symptoms of that disease condition, and So they are helpful to diagnose the disease condition, as well as they are not useful, or they do not help in individualizing a person, and less important for prescription, because they are common symptoms of the disease. Only they are useful when they are further qualified. They help us to arrive at a group of medicines. When we get all the common symptoms in the disease condition related to that disease condition, while taking the case history, when we get all the common symptoms, then in such case, or in such cases, with the use of these common symptoms, we reach towards the similar group of medicines which are indicated for that disease condition. Common symptoms help us to know the uncommon symptoms and are useful when they are absent, intense, associated with other symptoms present in a group. So the common symptoms, due to common symptoms, we can able to find out which are uncommon symptoms. If, for example, if there is high grade fever, then in high grade fever, due to the temperature is, body temperature is high, so there is dehydration, and if the patient at the same time was suffering from loose motions, then due to high grade fever with loose motions, there is dehydration. But at the same time, if there is thirstlessness, then this is the uncommon symptom, because due to dehydration, normally the patient should be thirsty. But if there is high grade fever, there is loose motions, but then also the patient, he does not want to drink water, there is no thirst, then this is the uncommon symptom. So according to the sufferings of the patient, we can able to find out the uncommon symptoms, because we know the common symptoms, as the patient is suffering from fever, loose motion, so we know that he should be having the dehydration, and due to dehydration there was the thirst should be increased in that patient. But so this is the common symptom. According to the suffering of the patient, we can able to know which are the common symptom, and if the patient is thirstless, if there is though there is fever and loose motion, then it is definitely a uncommon symptom. So the common symptom help us to know the uncommon symptom and are useful for finding out the simillimum, for finding out the exact similar remedy, and they are useful when they are absent, intense, associated with other symptoms present in a group. These symptoms, the common symptoms of the disease, they are considered last in the hierarchy of symptoms and study of a repertory. We have to consider at the end of hierarchy of symptoms. At the end, while constructing or while doing analysis, evaluation, as well as while constructing the totality. At the end, we have considered these symptoms, and mostly these common symptoms or diagnostic symptoms, they are useful for, as I previously discussed, that when we get all the common symptoms related to that disease condition, then we use the diagnostic rubrics, or then we use these common symptoms, and these common symptoms, they are useful for palliative treatment. They are useful to give temporary relief from the suffering of the patient, because the patient was suffering or there was advanced pathological state. We get only common symptoms and or only less number of symptoms, and these symptoms are also common symptoms. We cannot get any peculiar uncommon symptom. In such cases, we can use these symptoms, and also in advanced pathological state, to palliate the suffering of the patient, to give temporary relief to the patient, we use these symptoms. And with while using these type of symptom, these type of diagnostic rubrics, we advise the patient about diet and regimen. Then these type of symptoms are also we found in Borick's repertory, in Clark's repertory, in regional repertories. We found these type of common symptoms. So in the slide, the common symptoms are those which are present in many persons suffering from the same ailment. For example, breathlessness is common symptom in acute exacerbation of asthma. In case of asthma, in acute exacerbation of asthma, the patient feel breathlessness. This is common symptom of acute stage of asthma. Then headache and body ache is common symptom in fever. Many times in fever there is headache and body ache. With body ache, with headache, there is fever. So this is also common symptom of fever. And these symptoms are very helpful in diagnosing the case, because they are pathognomic symptoms. As these symptoms are the symptoms of the disease, what is pathognomic symptom? The symptoms of the disease. And as these are the symptoms of the disease, they are very helpful in diagnosis of the case. They do not help in individualizing a person, because in such cases we get only common symptoms related to that disease condition. So we cannot individualize the patient, but we can only able to diagnose the disease condition with help of these common symptoms. So this is about subjective symptom, objective symptom, and common symptom. Now, what is uncommon symptom? In every case, when we go through any case, then we find out that there are two groups of symptoms. Some symptoms are common symptoms, two common symptoms and for that disease condition, and some symptoms which differ from the other patient who is suffering from the same disease condition. Means, for example, if two patients are suffering from typhoid, then these two patients are having nearly all symptoms, common symptoms we get in both these patients. There is fever, there is mild headache, there is weakness. So all the common symptoms we get in these two patients. But if the other two patients who are suffering from typhoid, then in those two patients we get some difference in symptoms. In one patient there is appetite and thirst get increased. In one patient appetite and thirst get decreased. Then there is sleeplessness in one patient. The sleep of other patient is, there is no change in the pattern of sleep in the other patient. So in this way, in two patients there are changes in the symptoms. So this is called as the second group of symptom, or some symptoms which differ from other who is suffering from the same disease condition. And this second group of symptoms which are different from the common symptoms, they are called as uncommon symptoms. These uncommon symptoms, they are uncountable, unexplainable, it is paradoxical, and these symptoms are found in few patients and in provings of few medicines. We cannot found in every patient these type of uncommon symptoms, but if we prove any drug, or if we observe 100 patients who are suffering from the same disease, then out of that we observe in 70 patients we observe the common symptoms, and in 30 patients we observe some uncommon symptoms differently. So these are the symptoms which are found in few patients and in the provings of few medicine. And so these symptoms are also known as characteristic symptoms. Characteristic symptom of that disease, characteristic symptom of that individual. And so these symptoms are helpful in individualizing the case. So common symptoms, they are not helpful for individualization, but these uncommon symptoms, they are help us for individualizing the person. And these symptoms, they have little value, or they cannot arrive us at diagnosis, and they are helpful. They help us to understand the constitutional qualities, the individualizing characteristics of that person. So these are the symptoms. They are helpful for individualization, but they does not help us to diagnose the disease condition. They only help us to individualize the person, to find out the constitutional qualities of the individual. And so as these symptoms are characteristic symptoms of that patient, so these symptoms, they rank very high in repertorization. So before repertorization, all you know that first, after taking the case, we have to analyze the symptoms, we have to group the symptom according to the philosophy of the repertory which we are going to use for repertorization. Then we have to evaluate the symptoms, and then we have to make the totality of the case, totality of symptoms before repertorization. So while doing all these process, during evaluation, during making the totality of the case, these symptoms, these uncommon symptoms, these characteristic symptoms, these individualizing symptoms, they rank very high, or we have to give more importance to such symptoms. And according to Dr. Hahnemann, he said these symptoms as striking, singular, peculiar symptoms, because these symptoms, they are nothing but the individualizing symptoms, and further it divided into characteristic general symptom and characteristic particular symptom. So the uncommon symptoms are those which drawn our attention because they stand out in a group of symptoms. They are also known as characteristic symptoms, and they help to individualize a person. They have, or they rank very high during repertorization. According to Dr. Hahnemann, he called these symptoms as a